It's 3:05. We'll call this meeting to order. Shall we stand and recite the pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Russ, can you hear us?
Yes, ma'am, I can.
Okay. I think we have a full house today. How about that?
Very nice. Think so.
You're not on. And the other gentleman on the screen, I haven't met you, so if you could introduce yourself.
Mike Overby, I'm the chair of the Fire Adaptive Community Committee, so I know that Mark's on the phone too, so we got that covered.
Okay, great. And we have some guests in the audience. Would you like to introduce yourself, lady?
Sue Sutton.
Sue Sutton and Claire. Okay.
Yeah, please.
And Jackie. Okay, well, everyone, welcome. We have a very informal format for our meetings. So we'll go ahead and get underway. I had sent all committee members our September 16th minutes. Does anyone have any additions or corrections? Okay. Okay, then by consensus, we will approve the September 16th meeting minutes. And I think everyone has an agenda. I moved some things around this time since we tend to run out of time. I've moved some issues with the comp plan up front today. So we'll, everybody okay with the agenda? All right, then by consensus, we'll move on. Any announcements in the group today?
Is that like audience too?
Certainly.
Okay, yeah, I just, one real quick note, there's gonna be two developments over there by New Mexico Bank and Trust. You know, I don't know if y'all seen the condominium complex going in. There's gonna be some townhomes going in there too along that creek side. So I know as far as the comprehensive plan would go, and Trails Committee, networking trails, those developers have showed interest in, complying and maybe assisting and getting together to, maybe have that trail network go through their side of the property, and they could probably put that into the development stage if y'all are interested in looking at that. That would be the trail that goes from the ski area, Creekside, down all the way to the highway, kind of by the bay, following that creek. I don't know if y'all had any discussions about that trail or not, but during pre-development, it's a good time to take a look at that.
Yes,
It would come from the ski area down through where that development is and tie into the trail. It winds up going across 434.
That's what they would be interested in accommodating, yeah.
That would be
So-
good.
so most of that section that's about 60 feet wide from the Shooter Library up to the lodge is owned by the Age of Fire Resort.
Mm-hmm.
And a small 150 or so foot section just west of that road.
Yeah.
And then beyond that is owned by the nearby property owners. And they own all the way to the middle of the creek or beyond, depending.
Yeah.
And there's also a 40-foot village easement
That's what,
that runs
yeah.
from that 60-foot wide section that stops about 150 feet west of that road, our Shooter, and then the 40-foot easement continues all the way down to the wetland.
Okay,
So that's a drainage easement that the village has, and the wetland committee is gonna be working in that easement in the next few weeks to put in some rock work, just to kind of give an idea of what we can do to try to make it look a little better, and also to try to capture some of the sediment that's going down and filling in the wetland.
yeah, I know there's some issues there, of
Yeah.
course, yeah, with that
So,
culvert size change.
Oh.
It goes from 2 foot to, I don't know, it's, or, yeah, exactly, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And that's right in front of where this development is.
yes,
So,
yes, so
so-
anything we can do to coordinate those efforts to clean up that ditch, we call it Ski Hill Creek in
Yeah.
our grant that we have.
Yeah, and unfortunately, our developers don't own that part where those culverts are. They're just.
Well, it's the
inside
whole
that.
section of
Yeah.
stream, you know, and,
Yeah.
the resort's very interested in doing something
Yeah,
there.
so just want to put that on the
Coordinating
radar.
all of that would be really great.
Yeah, and I can get you like a plats and stuff.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask. And the contacts to the developers? Do you have the contacts?
Yes, yeah, matter of fact, I'll try to get those, members to actually show up, come and address the committee.
Oh, okay.
But I can get y'all after the meeting, I can surely get you in touch with them.
I should do the same announcement to make it formal with the trails, the recreation trails committee. And then
We
we'll
have.
to,
We've
I
talked
think we've done
about
it
it.
informal, we should actually put it on the agenda as a topic.
Yeah,
And then also, we'll need to talk about what's our standards for trail surfacing on different types of things, because if they propose some, we want to make sure it's gonna align with what we want as a village for the urban network.
well, that's exactly why I brought it up, because whatever the trail material is gonna be used, we just want it all to be the same continuity, and not like, so they would be agreeable to that, I'm sure.
Fantastic.
What is on the trail back behind it?
It's a crushed refined mix.
Okay, is it kind of like what Kurt's putting on the roads right now?
Yeah, but,
That's.
it should be a -3/8. The best crushed refined is a -3/8 sort of thing, so he's got probably -0.5. And so the more powder you have in it, the more it compacts. It's really limestone's the best because it does pack. The stuff he's put in the roads is not packed as good as I thought it would, what I've seen. But that surface is considered firm and stable, so it would meet your accessible trail requirements. So,
Well, that,
yeah, it's a good surface.
but it's, the more trails we can add, the better it's going to be.
Absolutely. No argument there.
Connecting,
Yeah.
areas.
Thank you.
No.
Okay, any other announcements? Moving on, old business, I'm just gonna report that at the last village council meeting on the 8th, I gave a little blurb about what we're up to, kind of described what we do at our meetings. And that we were proposing some format that all the different subcommittees can follow. And I think that went just fine. New business. Okay. I have Mary Ann here, but it's actually Allison's masterpiece here. This is a handout that we're gonna give, and I'm sorry the folks on the screen are not gonna have this in hand.
Well, Rocky was working on scanning it in and putting it up there for them, so
Okay.
FYI.
Okay, great.
She copied them, but they're.
Mary Ann,
Yes,
could I ask a question? I'm sorry about the agenda.
sure.
Yeah, hasn't been involved in any of your comprehensive plan updates, but the committee member leads coordination reports. Is that the mission statement that the committees have been working on? And Mark Manley's on my committee, the fire adaptive, so I don't know that I need to be on here if he's in the meeting, but what is the scope of this discussion on these committees?
At our regular meetings, at our monthly meetings, you mean?
No, I'm looking at the agenda for tonight. It says committee
Uh-huh.
member leads coordination reports. And then here, we're the fire adapted community. So what is the expectation? What's the presentation? What's the deliverable on that topic?
Okay, so the persons on the comprehensive plan committee have each selected an action committee to keep up with, basically. And it kind of falls out according to some of our work experience or special interests. And because Mark is a committee member on the comprehensive plan and your committee, he has been on a monthly basis giving us updates as to the actions your committee is taking. Mark, is that a fair description? Okay, so,
I mean,
so,
I guess I'm confused. I know that the council asked each committee to develop a questionnaire, and that's not what this meeting is about, I guess, right?
no, sir.
Okay,
But
well, then I think Mo can handle an update on what we've been doing, so I don't think I need to participate, frankly.
Okay, well, Allison, did you have?
Well, with regard to did you mention deliverable to the
Well-
comp plan committee, or?
I mean, I'm sorry, I'm just not that familiar with what the comp plan is all about. I just saw the fire adaptive community on there and I said, okay, well, maybe this is that questionnaire we filled out for the mayor and the council, but it sounds like it is not that.
No, but what we do have, and we're gonna be talking about in very, very short order, is the handout that I don't know if Rocky has gotten it out there for you guys yet or not as a scanned document. But what it is that we are asking for this kind of information from the different comprehensive, what, Rocky?
I heard the name.
Yeah, we were just wondering if you've gotten a scanned document out there for them yet, or?
Yep, all 4 people.
Awesome. So what we've done is we put together an example of one that's very short and sweet. I mean, it's not fully fleshed out by any means, but it's kind of an example of the information that we're looking to capture from each committee for each major issue we've identified for the comprehensive plan. That's going to help us identify, what has been done, what are the current conditions, what are our challenges that are primary ones we've got, and these are things you guys are all working on, but we need to bring it all into the comprehensive plan, and we're not expecting this overnight by any means. I mean, we're gonna talk about timelines and milestones for all of that, right?
Yes.
But we're gonna be going over this document.
It
So
sounds like we
like-
just need to send you what we've already done, which is a very thorough analysis of what we've been doing, plan on doing, and blah, blah, blah. So, that is a document that's ready to be reviewed by whomever.
Awesome.
Okay.
The-
Well, I'll
the
get off
purpose-
the call and won't occupy space on your screen. Okay.
Well, just one more thing, Mary Ann, did you wanna?
I was just going to say, this format that we've made available to everyone today is going to be the standard format from chapter to chapter in the comprehensive plan, so that there's a standard format for input by the action committees. So
Okay.
if you have already developed a document, it can be processed in one of two ways. You can adapt it to the standard format, or we can help put that together, but it's not going to be required until a couple of months from now. We're just trying to get the word out there for our format to be used.
Okay, well, I would just suggest that maybe the right hand talk to the left hand, since I thought all the committees were asked to do all that in the standard format already. And we've done ours, but I don't know where it's going.
Go ahead.
I think you're relying to the charter document that
Yes,
the council or the manager and the mayor might ask. So that charter document is giving your every committee the guides they need to stay on track. What we're looking for the comp plan, that's gonna be the goals and actions that you've already been working on. And so, what the comprehensive plan is gonna do is gonna take all the stuff going on in the village, workforce, fire, recreation, and package it into one document that's gonna be the guidance document for the village to live with and follow. So we know all the committees are doing stuff, and they probably have different terminology, different words for goal versus objective versus action versus strategy. We wanna kind of consolidate, concise that stuff, so when this comprehensive plan is done and an executive summary, any counselor or community member look at that and see what direction the village is moving forward on.
okay,
So we know your committee is years ahead of some of the other committees.
yes,
And we're not expecting you to start all kinds of new work, but just take that and spit it back to us in some format that we can put into a readable,
Okay.
good document for the village.
okay. Just let us know. Thank you.
Certainly.
Thank you, Mike.
Uh-huh.
I wanted to tell him too that you had kind of a format for how to develop,
The goal, the process,
but we can get that to him.
Mark and tell him.
All right, so I'm gonna turn this over to Allison. She has done an incredible job of creating a standard format for the action committee input. And because she is actively involved with water, wastewater, and solid waste, she has already developed some, lists of challenges, implications, goals, recommended actions. So I'll let Allison talk to you a little bit about.
Yeah, so what was, sent to you guys online and what you have in front of you, I don't know if does Bill have one of these? He does. Okay. This document,
Okay,
it's a two-pager,
He does now.
okay.
so the people on the screen do not have it.
I think they do, because I think Rocky also scanned that. So they kind of go together. And, what really, the one that, is probably at the end of the one you got, it says issues and goals development process. And it basically gives you a little bit of a roadmap for how to put information or collect information for what we want to put into the comp plan. And so it starts out with, what are the existing conditions? What are the challenges and issues we're dealing with? And these are things we've talked about, and it's just, it gives a little bit of a, explanation. Do a brainstorming exercise and collect ideas from the community. And, for instance, your challenges, what are your highest challenges? So on the chart that I put in here, I've got under like water supply and availability, the main key topics under water, wastewater, and solid waste management. So water supply and availability is one topic, right? And what have we done? What has been spent on it? When did it happen? I don't have the whole information, the entire background of what's all been done in this area, but at least I've got a few things in here that gives you guys something to start with regard to what we're looking for in that section. The next section is existing conditions. And that's all the data. Now, a lot of this stuff is in the old comp plan, but it has to be updated. And we knew we needed to update the old comp plan with new data, new information, like how many people are on our water system, how many commercial establishments, how many household dwellings, et cetera. What is our water use on a monthly, seasonal, et cetera basis? And then also what is our water availability? What are our current water rights? So those are all the data, all the information we need to know in order to be able to make decisions and set goals. So again, this is the roadmap. This I don't know if you guys, I'm sorry, it's in probably the 4th page of the document we can put in online, but it takes you through all these questions that you need to ask in order to be able to fill this out. So for instance, the first chart I have under water supply and availability is, what is our available water? What the primary challenge we have is we don't have enough water. So that's a big primary challenge, probably number one in this whole entire section. How many sections do we have? 8 sections, right? So we say this is section number 2, right? And implications if not addressed. So limits on community water use. Can't grow the community if we don't have enough water, et cetera. So those are just, again, examples that are in here. They might need to be fleshed out a little bit more. They might be good enough to be this short and sweet. So goal statements, and this is where I need some help from Attila. His, again, chart here that he's provided for us all gives an idea, gives a kind of description as to how you might develop your goal statements. But I had to have a little bit of help, because I was like, well, what? The goal statement is we need more water, but we have to have something more measurable that is something to the effect of increase the water supply by X% by this date. And then possibly another percent by another date, just having it all on a date timeline. So it's the what by how much, and it needs to be measurable. And then we get into the recommended actions, and those are all the things that we know are issues with regard to water availability. And that is, we have leaking lines, leaks, how much, we need to collect information on How much are we losing by leaking? How much are we losing by bleeder lines? You know, everybody talks about the bleeder lines being such a big deal, but really, how much water is really lost that way? Maybe it's not a high priority, and these are supposed to be somewhat in priority order. Purchase and lease additional water rights. That was in the old comp plan. It's nothing new, but it's obviously something that could be part of that percentage increase. For instance, another thing is that I've kind of come across is, getting, snowmaking credits, but we also confirmed, one of my data collection items, that we are getting credit. I think I've said this about 5 times, so I apologize. We are getting credit, I know, because it took me 5 times to get the right answer on this, for our wastewater effluent. And when we met with Kurt Epler and we went through his entire wastewater treatment plant, and when we looked at how everything's set up and the water treatment, SCADA system and all that, it occurred to me that, they want to increase the wastewater lines. They want to make for more use of wastewater. I'm getting into the weeds here a little bit on this, but I'm just trying to give you an idea of how to think through these things. If we do increase our wastewater treatment, we will be able to recover more water for our water rights. So you see how things can be linked. And it's the same thing we've been talking about with regard to our roads and the drainage. And if you manage the drainage better on the roads, you're not going to have as big of a problem in your wetland with the sedimentation filling in everything. So again, some things can meet multiple goals and objectives.
And so while she's just said that,
Yeah.
that's why on October 29th, we're going to have another meeting of the Action Committee chairs where everybody can come together and start sharing what they've found out about their challenges and what they're already starting to formulate for actions so that we can start seeing similarities between different committees. We've got wetlands committees, we've got people that are looking at drainage, so some answers will solve a couple of different problems. And so after today, we're gonna finalize these documents and send them out to the committees so that they can start having a look at them and come to the October 29th meeting with the issues that they've uncovered. Okay, I didn't mean to.
No, I appreciate that. Is there anything else you want me to kind of cover with regard to this? These are examples, really.
Right.
And I think one of Mary Ann's concerns was with providing an example that's filled out to some degree, you might be limiting people's ideas as to what they could put in here. And, this is going to be a little bit of an iterative process. I think that we don't want to limit that. We want it to be as thoughtful as possible. And I think Attila made a good point as well, as far as it doesn't have to be an on the ground project. It can be an ordinance. It can be a policy, a procedure, any number of things like that. So, with regard to recommended actions, I'm not extremely, fluent in doing these goal statements. And I think Attila, you had some ideas that, goes beyond maybe.
Yeah, I threw out this SMART worksheet as an example of having goals that are specific, measurable, achievable, and relevant. So each topic, subject matter can have several different goals, as Allison's worksheet has goals related to water supply, treatment, number of different goals within all those. So each committee can have several goals, but the goals should be developed from that list of issues, challenges, and potentially opportunities that each group will generate and through the process. So having just a generic goal of increase water doesn't mean anything, or decrease fire risk doesn't mean anything until we start talking about by how much, what parts of the village, so forth. We need to be specific, because that's how we can see if we're being successful and are able to measure and go back and see where do we go wrong, what happened, where do we fix this. So thinking about the SMART worksheet is something the committees can be looking at, and there's different versions of this, but I was really focusing on the specific, measurable, and achievable part, that we're not out here to save the world, and we got to think about realistic, staffing capacity, financial and fiscal capacity of the village, that does tie into, realistic and achievable goals. So those we have to consider. But the SMART worksheet is just a way to think about, committees can think about the goals they're developing for the comprehensive plan.
Thank you.
Any questions or additional thoughts on that or different approaches?
Yeah, this is Mark. I'd had my little virtual hand up there for quite a while. I don't, but
Oh,
Didn't pop
No,
up on the screen.
but nobody. So I really apologize for not being there in person. It makes it a lot easier for sure. I would just, just want to get some clarification on the document that Rocky sent here. I'm looking at it. So the water, wastewater, and solid waste management portion of this document was included to sort of give a real life example of what we're trying to accomplish through this process in all of the different areas that ultimately roll up to this committee. Do I have that correct?
That's correct. I think
Okay.
that's
Yes.
the
Okay.
summation.
Because we started talking about getting in, it's hard not to, right? To get into the weeds on things as important as water to the community. We're not actually talking about that right now, though. We're really just talking about the process that the committee is going to go through to identify the goals and the actions taken to meeting those goals. Do I have that right?
That's
Yes.
right. In fact, the committees will get a blank table.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. Say
The
that again.
committees will get a blank table that you're looking at. This one has been filled in for water,
Yeah.
waste. Okay, so each committee will have a blank and they'll get an example, which is what Allison has developed. Allison has already been gathering information throughout the community and and it's reflected in her table. But
Right. So that was my question, because this what I'm looking at here for the water, wastewater, and solid waste management looks great. So the work that's been done on this example, if we can apply this to by just start at the top, you identify the key topics, and those all look like very key topics to this particular challenge that the community is facing. And now we go through, okay, well, what are the primary challenges? What happens if we don't address them? And a lot of this information can be populated from the work that the individual committees are doing on their own, like Mr. Overby had mentioned, what he's been doing for Fire Adaptive Committee. And the idea would then be to plug that information into Allison's spreadsheet so that we can kind of advance the ball. Again, am I kind of summarizing that correct? Do I have that right? Because I'd like to make sure I understand exactly what we're trying to accomplish here.
That's correct. Many of the committees aren't as far along as the Fire Adaptive Committee. And so if we can hit them fairly early on with this format, then they can directly populate the table with what they find out and what they decide.
Great. Okay, so we're kind of analyzing the format to see if we can improve upon it, and that would be the aim of what we're trying to accomplish right now.
Yes.
Perfect.
Correct.
Okay, I will go back on mute. Thanks for the clarification. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Mark.
We'll be looking for your hand if we see it.
No, next time I'm just going to interrupt.
There you go.
If you do
Good.
this, we see that,
Yeah,
we'll see that.
We'll see that.
Hey, Mark, I saw your hand, but it got blended into that map that's behind your shoulder. So it wasn't as clearly visible. So I saw you.
Okay. Thank you.
The thing that I think is so valuable about this format is that you don't have to wade through a bunch of chat. It's very succinct. We're going to have a table of contents. Every table in our report will be in the table of contents. So if you pick up the report and you want to know about water supply, you can go to the page where the water supply table is located. I mean, we're trying real hard to make this a good working document, and not have it sit on a shelf. We want everybody to be able to pick it up and find what they need, so. And Allison was very strong about existing conditions, bullet them, you know, just make a list, you know, we're not gonna.
Everybody doesn't want to read the
Nobody
whole
wants to
paragraph.
At the end of these tables, there are 2 items that aren't filled out yet. Timeline and milestones recommended actions on a 5 and 10 year basis. So each section will be asked, each group will be asked to prioritize things that you would really think are important to happen in the first 5 years, what could be follow-up in the next 5 years. And then, so following the tables in each section, there will be a timeline for the things addressed in that section. In the executive summary, we will compile the key elements from all the different sections and have a master timeline. And so that the village administration can look at that and see all the things that are on the table, that things that should be accomplished. Now, the next item is funding sources. So that's going to be a driver on just how much can be accomplished, you know, what's feasible for 5 and 10 years. But the plan is that every 5 years, this document is updated. Things change. We had a pandemic, things changed. I mean, things will change the course. And so rather than having this document sit on the shelf for 10 or 15 years like it has in the past, every 5 years, someone will take a look and update it so that new conditions can be incorporated. And at that point, all the formats at least established, and an update won't be quite so radical. I'm hoping.
Yeah, absolutely. And we know that in the past, the comprehensive plan had funding information in it, but it was all in an appendix and it wasn't attached. You couldn't tell what funding could be used for what and when and how.
Right.
We want it to be specific to.
So I know that Julie with the village is very familiar. She's been instrumental in acquiring. I think Rocky has some experience with different sources for grants. Those are the kinds of things that we're going to be putting on here. If it's a straight infrastructure item, maybe it's part of a capital improvement plan, and that's another funding source. So that's the idea.
So Allison, are you going to be sending a blank to the committee chairs? Is that the idea?
Yeah.
Okay. And then, yeah, I think this, you know, the wastewater just as a template would probably be useful to tag along so that folks, because it's, you know, these are.
They can see the level of detail.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, everybody, I think, generally understands what's involved with sort of, you know, water and sewer. It's not overly complicated. And so it's really useful just kind of eyeballing all this stuff. There's a lot of useful information in what's already been done on this one. Gives the other committees an idea of kind of the target to shoot for. But I just, you know, I will pass that along to Mr. Overby and the other committees that I'm responsible for, that this is going to be on its way. And then now, are we going to talk timeline of when, you know, when the expected deliverables dates are for this? Because some of this stuff is going to take some committees a lot more time than other committees.
Right. That's on the list here. One of the things that Attila has provided in that issues and goals development process, he's actually got a time frame down the left side of the page where this is a way that the committee can say, all right, we probably need to try to achieve this in the next couple of weeks, and then we've got about a month or so for each step. We had originally said that we would like all of the input from the action committees by the end of February. This blips into mid-March, and I was going to talk to everybody about that today. The only reason I would stay away from mid-March that is usually spring break season. It gets real busy here and people may have things that they want to do other places. So we probably ought to talk about that. If you think we could have 6 weeks for that final stage rather than 8 weeks, that would be my only change. But what we still hadn't received from the village is their timeline for this study. We have decided that about this time next year would be ideal, because we could get the information from the action committees by 1st of March, and then start to develop draft report where we start getting all the different data from all the different sections, look at what other figures we'd want to include, and then that would be a milestone for the village's review. So that's the next thing on our list today is what would be our timeline and milestones for village council review. Santos, are you telling us something?
He's talking, but we can't hear him.
We can't hear you, Santos.
I think he's on a call.
Oh, okay.
Multitask.
Just messing with it. Okay. All right, I get it. So that's open for discussion right now, is what is a reasonable time frame if we assume that, I kind of like end of February.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's good. So that we can start putting this thing together.
What's in February?
The last,
The last-
deliverable of having a list of recommended actions into February versus 2 weeks later in March because of.
The only reason is because it's, I mean,
End of February.
mhm. I even think that or end of March, but then we have April, May, June, July, August, September, October. We have 7 months for a draft, turn it around, make changes, find
I
out.
mean, this October 15th to 30th for the existing conditions.
That's short.
That's just not a lot of time.
I think those all are movable dates in and out, but it's kind of like our deadline was February, so I'm kind of playing with.
Yeah.
If we're having a meeting October 30th with those committees start existing conditions, we know there's gonna be overlap, but. This
Well,
is
now's
kind
the
of your
time.
target Gantt chart of how you're working on these things. There's definitely overlap.
Well, let's do it. Let's mark it up.
I would say move everything by 2 weeks.
Okay.
All right, so what,
So we're saying that the time frame for task 1 would be
November 15th.
November 15th. So now until November
Yeah.
15th,
And the problem with the next one would be December the 30th, and that's no good.
right,
That's not gonna work. So it's gonna have to be middle of January.
right.
so we're gonna be November 15th to
January 15th.
January 15th,
I think so.
and then January 15th until
February 15th.
Yeah.
So we're back, we'll just make it the end of,
Mhm.
the
And
end.
that's gonna be the hardest, most difficult part will be developing good goal statements.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay,
if
so
you're
maybe-
following a smart format, thinking about measurements and success, that's gonna be
Go
hardest.
to the end of February, February 28th.
I think you could shorten the list of issues, challenges, and opportunities. If you group those, that's, half the people already have that written down on their heads. That's not as complex. So that could actually be a month. You'd probably shorten that
But that's
down.
holidays, so
It is.
I think
It
we have
is.
to
It
make
is.
it longer.
Yep.
Well, if it's done November 15th, December 15th, that gives them, that's, you can still, I think you can generate a list of issues, challenges, and opportunities and group those. That's probably one meeting if they do one or two meetings. I think you could do that in a month.
Mhm.
So I might keep that November 15th to December 15th. And then there's a lag time.
I just think everybody's busy.
I know.
I
After
really,
the 15th of December, everyone's busy, so you leave.
Before then.
before then, I mean, Thanksgiving rolls right into it. I mean, I just, people
it's
travel.
gonna be everywhere.
Yeah.
Instead of here.
Yeah. I think it should stay.
I know I am.
Yeah, I think it should stay January 15th
Okay.
because, there's just, people are going all different places.
What do you think about February 28th for the end of number 3?
Yeah,
And then February 28th to the end of March?
that gives a month for,
Is that enough time for that?
I don't know, what's
You need-
everybody think?
February
You need to
28th
April
until
15th,
end of March.
or do you need more time for that? Because those are the big ones.
Yeah, I would,
I would think the committee's gonna know if they've already started on this stuff, then they might get it all done. They might go their goals done before December, so that's fine, and they can move right into
Oh, sure, they
action.
can always
So
go
I
ahead.
think this is the worst case scenario, how long it's gonna take, but if you're moving along, work faster if you've already got the information.
Okay, so are we comfortable with task 4 going all the way to end of March?
Yes.
March 30th, right? Okay, so depending on the sophistication of the information provided by the action committees, this committee then steps in and helps try to fill in the gaps, right? So that starts 1st of April. And because there's not a lot of extraneous text, because we've set it up with bullets and tables and that sort of thing, I think that the work that we will do thereafter will be just filling in things that they were not able to uncover, like they don't know the funding sources, or they don't have a feel for how long some of the projects would take, or they, that kind of stuff.
We haven't
There are
really
lots-
asked them about funding in this, have we?
We have not.
We'll come back to that.
Yeah. I mean, it's on this, when we meet with them on the 29th, we will point out these 2 sections, and if they have the opportunity to define this, that would be great. There's a lot of other areas that, for instance, I'm just gonna share with you, community life and tourism. So I've already met with Shooter Library, art, music from Angel Fire. I think those are all key components to this community's cultural existence. I mean, music from Angel Fire has been performing here for 42 years, and they're bringing in, and I think that they need to be instrumental in some of the planning that the village is, I'm talking to Bill here. Some of the planning that the village is doing for Liberty Square. I mean, I think that they know what it's gonna take to have that as an event center. Also, I got thrown transportation, so, Mark, you're the lead on, airport committee. Let's see, where's that? Where's the airport?
Yeah. Are we moving to that agenda item or
Well, no, I need to stay on the agenda, I'm sorry.
no problem?
I'm getting distracted because I'm thinking of all the things that this committee is gonna have to pick up that is not covered by either an action committee or an organized group here in Angel Fire. And some of those things are transportation, cultural issues, tourism. So I'm trying to think ahead on how much time we're gonna have to generate those kinds of sections. I plan to work on that this winter as much as I can, because of right now, but I think that first draft is gonna be very time consuming, so let's set ourselves a timeline for our
What are the ones that we have out there that isn't really assigned? Economic development,
economic development.
and what else? We have that one, the community life and tourism.
Well, I'm trying to cover.
I know, but you have the other one. You have the transportation and roads.
Community life and tourism is not that difficult. I've made connections with all those groups, and I'm gonna send them the same format and hopefully get some input there. Public health and safety. That's kind of your deal, Mark, as far as the public health.
Mhm.
Um,
But we don't really have a committee. I mean, there's parts and
No.
pieces all over
You
the
do have
place,
a
right?
committee?
What? Yeah,
There's not a
So
village.
there is the Southern Colfax County Hospital District. It has constituted a committee of, I'm not sure if we're quite up to 100 members of that committee, but approaching it. But that's kind of a joke. But the issue certainly is not. I'm more than happy to give an update on all of that, but there is not a committee constituted by the village to address this matter. I don't know that one is necessary, and that be obviously up to the mayor. But I'm more than happy to give the update at the time what that committee's doing. How I don't know that there would be a mechanism to have that committee, to ask it for work product that this committee is asking from all the other village committees. It's certainly something I'd be happy to raise with them. I'm just not sure what the answer would be.
Well, I think it'd be more along the lines of what's the hospital district expecting from the village to be a champion for in that whole public health realm. So if we know those things, those could be put into the plan potentially.
Yeah, and I'm more than happy to address it at the time. And if you want to, advance the agenda item, we can jump into it right now. Just to say that the village has been very responsive to some of the things that particular committee has felt necessary to try to address the getting the proper certification for the new clinic, how it's going to work, if it's going to work in concert with the Moreno Valley Clinic, all of those types of things. They are being addressed. I just, the village isn't the only player. So.
Okay.
Well, I think the point is that we can probably, I'm sure we can pull items out of the work that committee, that district is doing that can be in this comprehensive plan. We'll get to that. Let's get to it. So, yeah.
Okay.
Maybe one other piece we gotta think about in this process, and this is all with the October 29th meeting, but is we need some sort of a community feedback loop on potentially, here are the big issues, here's some of the big goals, so make sure everyone's on the right track. And I don't know, will the mayor have a state of the village address after his first year? Is that a time to do a town hall to have?
Never done it before, but
Well, it's,
Good knows,
a town hall to find a way so we can have people talk to committee members and bring up their concerns, make sure what we're talking about has been ground truth and relevant and is in line with what the community is telling us as well. So we ought to be thinking about what are the strategies for some sort of outreach before we get to this March date. We probably need to have one outreach. Maybe it's social media, maybe it's something else, but somewhere in the middle we've got to have an outreach strategy.
Okay.
And that could be a topic for the committee chairs to hammer out.
So that should probably happen before we prepare a draft report, because at that point it's kind of too late.
Right.
Okay, so let's look at this timeline again. Old school.
Time check, we have a half hour to wrap up today.
Yes, we do. We have to be out of here at 4:30. Okay, so we've said that we're gonna ask for completed input by March 30th. So if we want to have this thing done by November 1, say, that gives us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 months to go through draft report preparation and final report preparation. It just takes so long to get through final report preparation, because when I read this report, I was so disappointed at misstatements, and it just says something about the quality if you can get it really good. So,
all the information that needs to go in there with it, maps and
oh yeah,
all kinds of
it's a lot.
information.
It's a
that
lot.
Goes with the information.
Okay, so final report preparation, I think we need at least 6 weeks for that. So that puts us back to mid-September. We start September 15th on final report. Okay, and we've got, so that leaves us August, July, June. Okay, so I think we're gonna need every bit of April, May, and June, for a first draft. Well, April should be the month that we do our outreach. So a milestone would be, I'd say end of April, so that gives us enough time to be prepared for an outreach to the community. We gives us 1 month to sort through all the stuff we've received. And then we go to the community. This is what we're getting from the committees. What do you think? Does that sound about right? Okay, so end April would be the community outreach. Okay, so Attila, what do you think as far as community outreach? Is it just stand up and give your input, or do you let them come back with input? I mean,
We can talk, so my thought on outreach would be, let's have an early outreach stage, that here's what the comprehensive plan is about. Sorry, you guys were blocking the podium with you. We'll try to keep this way. It's you all.
you can make that.
I'm thinking there should be the first phase of, here's the comprehensive plan, has been done since 2008, it's an important document. We're doing this now. We think these are the big topics we're all talking about. And let's hear from, you can go, if we do it as a town hall, which I like that process, because we can go, there's a table for fire, there's a table for recreation, there's a table for wetlands. You can move around and talk to the different representatives about your issues, concerns.
Okay,
So we're basically affirming that what we found so far, these big issues, aligns with what the community thinks. So there's no curveballs being thrown our way. So then, I think we can do our work and start working on the recommended actions. I'm thinking that somehow we bring, if we can make this work, Members Day in June would be the time to present the actions and the big picture to get, or the draft, we present the draft at Members Day or that week or sometime. And say, here's a draft of this comprehensive plan, get some feedback, and then we move into the final writing after Members Day.
you want to present our draft report at the.
I would not do it as a report, I would do it as, if we could do a community conversation, you can actually have a written executive summary for each section. Here are the 3 top issues for
Okay,
water, wastewater.
I get that.
Here are the key actions.
And
That sound
actually,
right.
that could be incorporated into our, the subjects in our executive summary.
It could be,
ultimately.
right. So I think sometime in January, February, we kind of have a outreach strategy. Whether it's a town hall, which we know, Public Works Director is really in favor of, can we do that somehow? Maybe. And then we do our work and take community feedback, build that into what we've already collected. And then we are then continuing our work on our action items. And if we've got some good content, and maybe we've done some outreach, to Rotary and other groups between then. And then in June, somehow we've got another outreach strategy. So here's a draft of what we think the direction we're going. And that gives us the marching orders to go forward and write a final after we hear from the community.
I think when the first draft is done, which is the end of June, it would be a good idea to present that to council, not as a voting item, but this is where we are in this. So if there's any questions that bring them up then, not when we get to the
Yes.
the final.
Yes, right.
And people in the audience could have copies of that too, and they could speak to it. That's a thought item,
No, no, no.
not a committee member, I'm just,
Well, the more we engage council throughout the whole process, even if it's a month, quick, this month they worked on these key issues, this month they worked on that, here's some findings. The more we engage council, the more they buy into the process and the more they're gonna participate in this. There's gonna have to be a council and staff retreat to figure out how you put action items or strategies or tasks onto those action items. And how you take your 2025 or 26 fiscal year and start stuff. So there's gonna be some sort of a work retreat you guys are gonna have to schedule before this thing gets finalized, I think. And that's probably, you might be lead on that since you're the liaison as to how that happens.
Okay, all right, so this is what I'm gleaning here from this is by the end of April, we have some sort of community outreach, town hall forum with tables representing the different action committees. They will have already gone through the process of filling this out.
Yeah.
So they will have that information to share, visit, okay, with people. Okay, so then we take, the month of, so that happens at the end of April. Between the end of April and the 1st of June, we're putting together a draft report. And we're sending it
So that's basically 1 month.
the end of April, 1st of June. That's not enough.
So if we do earlier, that first outreach, we're just presenting kind of the goals or the issues and challenges to get confirmation on that from the community. That gives us more time for the actions and then into a June second strategy.
Okay,
I mean,
Okay, so-
maybe the Kurt Stones have a town hall on snow plowing and then, okay, we're gonna be part of that snow plowing town hall as comp plan discussion.
so if they finish their, input by the end of March, I think just shortly after that should be that town hall. Because we want to be able to, if there's something that's found out that we missed after people have visited with it, I think the town hall, has to be the beginning of April.
Hmm.
Right after the committees have finished their analysis, right?
because that's what people are gonna be looking at, what they're turning in.
I mean, I hate to bring up complications, but, this community, there's not a whole lot here in April. Not a whole lot going on.
That's right.
Right. I know we'll have YouTube or whatever, I hope we'll have some sort of online presence.
Well, then, do we have to revisit the whole timeline of this? Because maybe it's a 2026 report and we use the summer when everybody's around to get that additional. I know,
You're dragging it out so long, people are gonna totally lose interest in the whole thing.
right.
So,
Staff, everybody.
I guess I appreciate the outreach and getting the community involved. We have 60 people from the community that are already heavily involved. We have all the action committees. I think that we need to remind at our October 29th meeting that that is part of their formulation of their ideas, is kind of their own outreach to the community. And I don't know what format that's in, visiting the brewery or what, whatever that format is, but we're giving them 6 months to put this together. And I think they need to try to field questions from other people in the community. I don't know how else to.
Santos, can I ask you as a planning firm, your suggestions, recommendations, ideas on how we might do additional outreach? Between, after we've identified the issues and opportunities, existing conditions. Should we have some sort of community forum to have some feedback on that before we move into the goal and action development? And what ways can we do that?
Santos? Did you hear Attila on that?
I'm sorry, I did not. I've got a permit on fire in another jurisdiction with council members, so sorry.
Oh, okay. All right, that's all right.
But I'm sorry, but what was the question?
Okay, so we're in a predicament here trying to figure out if we can successfully have a community engagement activity, whether it's a town hall or some other strategy, January, February time period, possibly to kind of get a confirmation of the community that we're on the right track as far as issues, opportunities, and challenges we're dealing with, and perhaps some goals. And the idea is that I know we have 60 people involved, but my whole life was about community engagement. I don't think that's enough. So I'm thinking, is there a strategy that we can consider for us to have a feedback loop beyond 60 people and the council on this first part of the plan? And then that gives us the direction to move forward, developing the goals and actions. My thought is we come back in June and during Members Week, when there's lots of people here, lots of activity, and find a way to share the goals and actions with a larger constituency, larger community, then so we can then start drafting our final document after that. So the question to you is, what as a planning firm that you've done this, what would you recommend we entertain as a outreach strategy to get some ground truth in what we're talking about?
I think my first reaction would be trying to do something in February. And that we coordinate with the marketing firm that's been hired by the village and getting this message out, similar to what the Workforce Housing Committee is doing with their surveys, to kind of give a bigger universe of responses. And that if we spend the rest of this calendar year, early January, trying to get better feedback from the committees on the template that Mary Ann's put together, I think that makes a lot of sense as far as in my mind of timing, or maybe even push it back to March. But utilize some of these tools that other committees are using to get the notice outreach. We've got a database of employees, a database of employers that's been coordinated on the Workforce Housing Committee. We've got a database of registered businesses that we can also tap into as well, in addition to the posting a QR code for anybody who goes into Lowe's or True Value to see a flyer for an upcoming meeting. That's my thought. And, we could look at the community center. We could look at other venues. But that would be my idea, is try to pencil something February, March to try to get that scheduled and moving. And that kind of flows with the timelines that we've been talking about with these other committees.
The other unfortunate fact is that you were saying there's nobody here at that time of year. People like myself or who are here in the summer, we don't have a vote on anything anywhere. I mean, we're basically vacationers in the eyes of the village. And so, and I get that. So, I think that for us to delay the development of the report until April, May, I think we're going to get ourselves in a bind with getting our report together. And I like what Santos said about February, March, because that's the time when the committees have honed in on some stuff that they can actually, I think it's always easier to present some ideas and have people react.
Right.
And that's when we'll have that. We'll have that.
So that's kind of what I was thinking about is we need some affirmation from, okay, yeah, that's a huge issue for me, that whatever topic is, I really care about that topic. I'm glad it's on your list. So I think that's what I'm looking for, not asking for blank stuff, but let's, it's a feedback on what we're doing. So maybe the other strategy, Santos, some QR code thing is, if we had some sort of quick summary document of the key issues, opportunities, challenges and that we're seeing. Maybe that's a QR code and maybe the Chanticleer News picks it up and we put it on the QR code and goes out with a utility bill notice, or it goes out on the Facebook page and here's what we're hearing. What do you think? Let people in the committee know what you hear. Right, you know, that, would the marketing department help us with that kind of
I think so. I think it's at least a conversation with the marketing firm that the village has hired. You know,
Okay.
if it's something that's also in their scope of services, so that we kind of use the same processes that they've already set up with some of this other work. I know that they're also working with the lodgers tax and visitor center and on some other stuff. So I think there's good pathways there, and I kind of agree that if we give them a template of kind of where we are, and this is as the meat of what we'd like to talk about, that seems more enticing for folks to participate, as opposed to, hey, what do you think? You know, it's kind of open-ended.
Okay.
Okay, so we can agree. We can agree, we're gonna look at community outreach after we have received the input from the action committees soon after, so April,
Yes.
is that right?
Yep.
Because we're not inventing the wheel here, we're taking the work of the committees and compiling it.
Correct,
And,
for the most part.
and for the most part, but that's why I was saying, it was, they're gonna wind up their work here in months or whenever. If we drag this on out, then everything that they're done is gonna be out of date. We need to stay with their, in my, that's just, and I have no votes. So
That's a good point.
the only reason I say it would be a good thing to bring that to council to end of June, that's when we're finalizing budget for 25. And we're talking about how things are gonna be paid for. And so because July 1st, we have to approve the final budget for 24, 25. So then if there's any tweaking that needs to be done,
So you think that we need a, draft report by,
end of June,
end of June?
that's your first draft, you have this end of June.
But you're already considering the next year prior to that, because end of fiscal year is June 30th, right?
Right.
So we'd have to back up from that.
Well, not necessarily.
Well,
I'm just
sort of,
saying.
yeah, 'cause-
Well, at least you would have your budget set in months in advance.
Right, if there are items that just pop up to somebody on council or somewhere that say, whoa, wait a minute. Ooh, this is not gonna be in this next year's budget, you know? This would be maybe a year or two down the road, but, which is okay, as long as,
well, we certainly can shoot for June 1 then for a draft report. That gives us 6
it's
weeks
flexible.
about. I'm thinking that over this winter, the areas that aren't attacked by the action committees, we just need to be writing that up. I have that already.
Yeah.
to put together.
So it goes to council for approval when? November,
That would be the final report.
yeah, November what? What were you saying? First?
Well, I think that,
November.
pardon me?
Well, you had September the 15th for.
For the final report prep,
committee to have the final report.
start,
No, it's gonna be,
that's the beginning of it.
yeah,
And then we
Which
would,
would then be
we
taken
would
to
need 6 weeks.
council probably
end of
Middle of
November.
November?
in the.
Yeah,
Yeah.
middle to
You don't wanna go to
November.
end of November because,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
Now you're.
Okay, so final report prep is September 15th through mid-November.
We're done.
Okay,
We're done.
all right, we have to be out of here in 15 minutes. So, let's move on to our little committee lead reports. I've tried to clump these together. Mark, if you want to go first, I know you do.
No problem. Yeah, so very quickly, airport committee, the village went to published an RFP to engage a consultant. I for some reason can't get the RFP to come up right now. I believe it's open for at least a couple more weeks. For folks to and companies, consultants to respond. This would be, it's gone to RFP because the village anticipates that this will cost more than $60,000. So to comply with procurement law, they've gone to RFP. This would be to engage a consultant to help the village essentially navigate taking over responsibility for the airport from the county. The biggest hurdles being sort of making sure that federally with the FAA that we jump through the right hoops in the right order. Again, there's everyone, the local stakeholders here are all in line. The county wants this to happen. The village does, so does the resort. And so I've already had several calls from different consultants just asking some specific questions on how to respond to that RFP. So there certainly is some interest in doing it. It sounds like we've got some pretty good people out there that know how to navigate this. And so everything appears to be on track with that. Other than that, you can go on to advancedairlines.com right now and book your tickets between Albuquerque and Angel Fire for about $85. So everybody should take advantage of that. I know in the early parts here, the resort's going to be bringing a lot of its J1s up from Albuquerque that way. So that'll be exciting for those kids for sure. But yeah, we're all looking forward to this. So you know, everybody take advantage of the air flights, and eventually when the transition occurs, it'll be the village's responsibility to operate. But that's where that committee stands currently. And when there are responses, you know, they go through just the regular process of selecting a consultant to then help with the whole process. Any questions on that?
Does will Advanced Air operate? I've heard two different things. Is it from?
Yeah, sorry, I kind of went quick in between the committee and Advanced Air. That's not really part of the committee.
Right, but it's but they're operating mid-December to mid-March for ski season, and then they're off for a while, and then they pick up for summer season. Is that correct?
Yeah. So, and again, just want to be mindful of the time. The state did not give us the full amount of the grant, allowing Advance to operate essentially 5 days a week year round. So we had to look at, you know, we're basically throwing darts at a calendar, going when is the most, you know, what are the days of the year where the plane is likely to be full, and so it's I think we're dark Tuesdays and Wednesdays through the ski season. And but the flights will begin right at the beginning. The resort's scheduled to open on the 12th to members, 12th of December to members. I'm sorry, I have that wrong. No, 12th of December to members, sort of member preview day if we have snow. And then the resort is looking to open on the 13th. The flights really begin in earnest then, and will go all the way through till the end of the ski season. Again, Tuesdays and Wednesdays, it's dark. The flights come in and out of the airport in the early afternoon. You want to look at the website again, because the dates are not, or I'm sorry, the times are not consistent. They're off by a little bit each day. And so the flight will come in from Albuquerque, load right up and go and turn around and go right back. That's the way the flights are scheduled right now. And again, it's advancedairlines.com, and you can go right there and you can book a flight right now if you'd wanted to.
Okay, got it. Fire Adaptive Committee?
Uh,
Fire-
Really, yeah. So at the last meeting, there was the village is not accepting any more slash permits now, and I don't know if anybody's gone out past the slash pit, but that crew has been doing yeoman's work. There is just tons of material that we're going to have to deal with. Other than that, there was just an awful lot of talk at the last meeting, but not a heck of a lot of action. Mr. Overby did send out the committee's mission and objectives just prior to the meeting. I haven't had a chance to review that yet. The committee continues to sort of focus on biochar despite the council's lack of interest in that. I don't know where that's going to go. And other than that, I believe the village has with grant money has hired a wildland coordinator. And that has happened relatively recently, and I have not yet been able to meet with that person. That is all I can tell you on Fire Adaptive.
Mark, was that an ambassador?
On that.
Mark, was
Sorry.
that the ambassador, wildland ambassador?
Did I? Yeah. Did I say? What did I say?
Coordinator.
Sorry. Yeah. Yes. Sorry.
And I think she just got hired last week.
Okay.
Thanks, Mark. You
Yeah.
already
And then
gave details.
just on the healthcare front, the mayor, the Colfax County Chairman Trujillo, and then on behalf of the resort, my boss Dan Rakes, just they sent letters, just a urgent request for expedited licensing at the urgent care clinic. Sent those letters to the Department of Health and the the New Mexico Environment Department, essentially describing the challenges, and that time would be of the essence here for licensing the clinic. And that the work of that committee is ongoing. But we're optimistic that we will be operating when the chairlifts begin to spin. So if we have any updates on that, I'll be obviously updating this committee as well as council whenever we get that information. But that committee is and all the folks here working hard on getting that this issue solved, because we really have to have medical care, urgent care here. I got to experience this firsthand. Had some buddies come down to ride bikes. One of the guys took a horrendous fall, and I got to experience going behind the pilot car all the way to the hospital and spending 8 hours round trip doing it. It's not very pleasant. We've got to address this problem and get it solved, and get somebody here on the ground to at least to respond for our urgent care patients this winter. So anybody that knows a doctor that's looking for a new gig, let me know.
Okay, thanks, Mark.
Yep.
Okay, we've got 6 minutes and they're gonna chase us out of here. Santos, it's not fair that you have just a brief time to present anything new with planning, zoning, workforce housing,
I'm going to give it a shot. So
Okay.
we're wrapping up the GIS addressing with UNM to update our GIS systems. I'm trying to coordinate a meeting to go over they sent a second batch of addresses to coordinate. We've got most of them down. So I'm trying to get that done. Workforce housing. With workforce housing and planning and zoning, council has considered approval to move forward with amendments to our development code, and also creating a new section, chapter 11, on workforce housing ordinance. That happened last week, so we're gonna go to council later this month with some revisions to the development standards to try and encourage development along public water and sewer mains, to revise minimum lot sizes. I think you heard earlier about development that's going behind the bank. That same developer is looking to build workforce housing at the blinking light. And so we're in conversations with them as well. The APA conference for New Mexico was last Wednesday, Thursday, Friday at UNM. I facilitated a work session with plant commissioners on Friday and was able to share some of the work that we're doing at Angel Fire with respect to workforce housing and how that's different from some other cities that just seem more interested in saying no. And so it was interesting to get some of the feedback where the commissioners like, well, how many people have pushed back on these proposed amendments to your code? I said, none. Everybody just seems to understand if we don't have people who can work and live here, we're just not going to have, it's going to have a ripple effect across a lot of industries. Tourism, economic development, and lodgers tax. I actually met with, at the conference, the new legal counsel that's working on some of these ordinances on the short-term rentals and our lodgers tax, and that they're working through some feedbacks on the drafts that they proposed to try to get back to the village on getting some updates with respect to short-term rentals and how it impacts lodgers tax and workforce housing and tourism as well. That's really all I got.
That was perfect.
I hope I caught some of that.
We'll
Yeah.
put our hands together. All
I think
right,
this is recorded, so you can just go back to the tape.
Oh, okay.
that's true. Okay, Attila,
Nothing new to report.
nothing new to report.
I yield my time.
Okay. Thank you. Allison, on wetlands, I know you've been really busy.
Yeah,
You could just fill this in.
I know.
We can't talk about it, just type it in and we'll all hear it.
So,
See it.
yeah, we're getting, down to the wire with regard to getting out there in the field. And we've already collected some willows and stuff, so we're getting ready to put in the beaver dam analogs and putting in the rock structures on I met someone this weekend, he called it the god awful gulch. People just do not like that ditch and they want something done. They want it to be an amenity, not a eyesore and not a dumping ground for people's sediment. So, we're gonna be going in there, putting in some rocks in the next few weeks and hoping to make, at least show what can be done and maybe build on that. It's not gonna make all the difference in the world, but it's a start. We're hoping to build on it. So that's where we.
Are you looking for volunteers for helpers? Or do you have your?
Yes, but the weather this weekend is looking really dicey, so it's really unlikely. So it's just, I don't want to put out a call for volunteers until I have something more solid.
Yeah.
So potentially the following weekend, but
Well, you have your committee that you
Yeah.
can contact if
Yes.
you're ready to mobilize.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, I'm gonna give a real quick thing. I met with Art Up, I met with, Music from Angel Fire, and I'm going to share with them all of our input, ideas, so that they can look at opportunities, not just challenges, for their groups. They were all surprised to hear from us, so that's good that we're reaching out to some people that didn't have a say before. I also had a stellar communication with the people with the blue bus. I contacted the guy that's in charge of planning for them. And I sent him about a dozen questions and he sent me a document back that was awesome. They are very open to extending their service. They've already talked about it in-house, about extending around the Enchanted Circle. And I threw out there that, hey, we may be looking at a regional health facility, that we're gonna be having all this new transportation coming into the airport. So would you be open to having bus service on this side of the mountains? They're headquartered in Espanola, and so I think that their bus barn is kind of there. So everything that they run on the other side, they're active in 4 counties currently, from Santa Fe up to Cuesta. And so that's kind of been their trafficked area. He reminded me that Angel Fire had service and rejected doing that. And I said, well, that was associated with COVID and the down to business at the resort. But we'd like to talk about, you know, maybe doing something up and down the Moreno Valley. And they are very open. I told them I would kind of digest all the stuff that he sent over, but they're looking for an expansion route. So that might be an opportunity that we can capitalize on, particularly in relation to the two airports, the Taos Airport and this airport. I asked if, you know, how do they set up their stops, and they have their own little analysis, but very open. So I'll send
And getting people from the nearby communities we talked about.
Yeah.
Moron, we talked about Cimarron, you know, getting people here to, if they want to work here.
Right. And so the biggest difficulty for them is that the cost of their operation is shared with the county. The counties actually provide I believe it was 1/8 of 1% taxation to people in the county to help pay for it. They also use federal money. And that's how they get free rides for everybody, is they operate with those funding sources. So if we did Moreno Valley, then we're touching on Taos County, Colfax County, and Mora County. And so, yeah, we'd have to kind of figure that out, because there'd be large sections of the counties that wouldn't have the benefit of the bus service. So, anyway, so that was good. I'm gonna copy you with my summations on this. Okay, what else have we not touched on here?
Time check for past time.
I know, but he hasn't shooed us away yet, so. I'm gonna go to it until we can. Russ, you've been listening this whole time. I had kind of put out that request that you help us with dry utilities. Is that something you might be able to help us sort out, what Kit Carson's plans are in the next 5 and 10 years for our area?
Yes, ma'am. Actually, I've had the conversation with Luis, and I actually thought I was going to be out of town, so I didn't ask him at this point for this particular meeting. But absolutely, we can schedule that. He's agreeable to that as well.
Okay.
Good.
Perfect. Okay. Our next meeting and future meeting schedule. I will have to join the meeting via Zoom after November 1. So I would appreciate maybe Attila, if as co-chair, you could conduct the meetings and I'll be on the screen.
Sure.
I fully intend to continue to talk with my sources. And I also wanted to reach out to other mountain communities that face some of our issues with drainage. I've talked with the Public Works Director here, and he is understaffed and does not have the equipment necessary to maintain a good bit of the roadside drainage in this town. But I also want to talk to some other mountain communities that have issues with siltation. I mean, that's the biggest problem, filling in ditches and culverts and all that, and talk to some others to see what design standards they require to avoid. Instead of having to go back and clean out all the time, let's keep it from happening from the get-go. So my idea was to talk to Greg Ralph, who has worked in other mountain communities. I understand, I don't know exactly which ones. I think he's worked up in Colorado.
Yeah, and it's with Colorado. I'm
So-
not sure which one.
So that's gonna be my mission this winter, is to just, I mean, I'm not all about reinventing a wheel. I mean, I've just soon find another community that it has faced these same issues and how they cope. So when I'm not here, I'm gonna be doing some online research and looking at other communities on how they solve some of these problems. And then, like I said, I feel like I've met a good number of the other persons in this community that now I can just call up and ask questions, and I'll try to be working on my text sections. The only person I haven't talked to yet that I need to is, I'd really like to make a chronological list of our history as a town. It's convoluted, I know, but I just feel like this report needs to state how we got here, how we have come up with all these challenges, and it's a mishmash that I'd really like to declare that.
I've got a contact for you on that.
I do too.
Okay.
Who's yours?
Guy Woods,
Guy Wood?
the Woods,
Wood.
Wood.
Yeah, he
used to have the Chronicle here. Yeah, he's been in the newspaper business and he lives up behind the,
Okay, Guy
yeah,
Wood.
he'll fill you in all kinds of stuff.
Okay. I also met a guy who's on the village, from, the Music from Angel Fire Committee, a guy named Beck Atkinson. Anybody know Beck? So he's on my list to talk to. And then there's, Don Borgeson.
Yes.
Okay, so that's my mission before I leave, is to talk to for me.
Don has been here forever.
Right, so these are the folks that I'm gonna try to glean some information.
And they might be able to add to your list, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Oh, they might be able to add to your list, I know the people, the contacts they own.
Right,
Because we've been here 40 years, but, busy raising 4 kids.
Yeah, right.
Would they do the report, would they do it for us? So when they would take on that
oh, I
project?
have,
Guy might.
I've got some dates associated with some events, and I thought I would just have them help me fill it. And just in the profile of the community, just have a little timeline of how things happen.
That actually is an interesting idea. It may be a nice request from the mayor to ask them directly to help do a chronological history of the village. So, and I think.
Just add it to
different
history.
ways, yeah. Well, I think different perspectives on that, different leadership that it is important to the growth of our community, and knowing our past would be kind of a cool, really cool project.
I did get to meet with the mayor, this week, and we had tried for quite some time, so he gave us a little insight on his look in the future. So we'll try to incorporate some of that too. All right, well, we just blazed right through there, so.
Yes, all right. Do you guys have anything you would like to ask or would like to add or?
We just came so we can know what this is all about.
Okay.
Well, what did you find out?
Yeah.
Well, let's see. Yeah,
Madam
yeah,
Chair.
the condos and the townhomes over there by Dale's other jobs. And the flights, I knew about those. The slash files I'd read about. I didn't know about the new homes down by the blinking light. Now, that's not the one they're talking about behind Zeb's?
No,
No.
that's a totally different one.
Okay.
And we didn't really even talk about Plaza del Sol, but it's now called Liberty
Oh,
Square.
right, I knew that, yes.
That's another day.
Yeah,
Santos, did you have something to add?
he wants to
Yeah,
say
my-
bye.
My son is needing a ride from soccer practice, so I
Bye,
gotta run.
Santos. Thank you. Bye, thanks for joining.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
Can I hear one sentence about night sky?
Yes,
I know I want to hear it.
you want to
I
hear
want
it?
to say it.
Okay, well, there's been an ordinance put together, but I think it's being evaluated and discussed, and we want to get, community input on that. And I'm not sure, what did we talk about last time with regard to that?
Well, we thought, I think there were some issues in that might be pretty controversial for some builders and property managers and others about solar lighting, all the things, and I think we recommended that there be a serious community conversation about what we're after. Are we after a night sky designation? What's the ultimate goal for the ordinance? I think we all support it, ordinance like that, if it's reasonable.
They've been shining in our windows.
Yeah. So, yeah, and I've got one down below me. There's a street light on one that's a Kit Carson light that's been there forever that no one knows how to shut off. So there are topics, I think, that we encourage that group have a broader conversation before they propose anything to council. Because if it goes to council, my feeling is it goes to council and people get a wind of it, and council is blindsided by some stuff in there. It's not gonna go over too well, so it's better to get it in the open and flush it out in advance.
And we also discussed that it probably was worth, being reviewed by planning and zoning. That they might be the entity that would be able to address some of the specifics.
Sure.
So now when's your next meeting?
We didn't do that.
That's right, we got to the meeting schedule and then we kind of got waylaid, so. Are we doing one in about a month?
That would be best, I think.
Okay, what would that look like?
Okay.
November.
But our next responsibility is October.
Oh, yes, we
29th.
have
And,
October 29th.
and my plan is, if it's okay with you,
Is it-
is to take these documents that we looked at today, get a blank worked up. We've got the example, we have a blank, and we have Attila's list of how to develop these things. And the question is, do we send those out prior to the October 29th meeting or hand them out at the October 29th meeting?
I don't know.
Both.
Okay,
Okay.
all right, so I'm gonna send out an email this week inviting them. Save the date, October 29th. It's a council work session. Council members and the mayor will be present to listen, mostly. And the chairs are to come, and if they themselves are not able to attend, to send another person from their committee to participate in our open forum, where we would exchange ideas on the things that they've discovered so far. And then if we had that scheduled for future meetings with the chairs. And I guess we just stick to that, if that's okay with y'all. This is, so instead of October 30th, it's actually gonna be October 29th, so we could take advantage of the council meeting day. The next one was gonna be a progress meeting mid-January, January 15th. And the last one was the very end of February. So that still works with our
That still
schedule we
works.
give today, I think. So, I'll be sending out an email, you all will be copied, and we'll send them to, I have the list of committee chairs,
And that's be 3 PM here,
3 PM.
is that right?
For the 29th. work
On the
session?
29th.
And then do we have a date for our next meeting?
No, so, where's my
We want to look at that.
trustee card here? So you guys decide. The November.
Oh, yes, you trusty dusty
Mhm.
card. All right.
I think 2 weeks.
Mark,
after
we're
that-
setting, the next meeting schedule.
So 2 weeks after that gives us a good time to review what came out of the committee chair meeting and the work session. So I think a month from,
So the 18th?
Stay away from Thanksgiving, I don't know when that is, but
Yeah, so the Monday, the 18th. I don't know if the Monday is good or not.
Yeah. We'll have to check and see if that's
That's
available.
a week and a half before Thanksgiving.
Should work.
You want to go earlier than that?
no, I'm gonna keep it to an hour and a half meeting. So November 18th is Monday.
Mhm.
That's tentative till we find a.
Yeah.
It works.
We'll have to check with Brian.
Mhm.
Okay, that's what it is. We'll see if that confirms.
Mary Ann,
Yes, sir.
would that meeting of the 18th be a good meeting to have Luis attend? Would there be time in that meeting?
To address the dry utilities? Are you talking
Yes, to
about-
address the utilities in regards to what we're looking to do in the next several years.
No,
No, I think, we probably need to focus, not have a separate discussion on that. I think we want to focus on the overall project and not spend a lot of time on that one particular issue.
it may be, Russ, that,
Is there a timeline that you? Yes, ma'am.
well, these meeting minutes will show our timeline. We just had that earlier discussion today. And it may
Okay.
be that,
Right, right.
that your contact with Kit Carson could meet with, one or two of the committee members to gather that information and then bring it to the overall committee meeting in summary. Because what we've been doing is providing, if we have contacts with people in the community, is that we kind of summarize the meeting with text so that we can go to it at any time to recall.
Right.
And Allison is kind of keeping a tally of all those sheets. So, I will be.
Absolutely no worries. That we had spoken to having Luis actually attend one of the meetings and give a little presentation. So absolutely we can do the other as well, and that's not a problem. I just didn't know if you wanted to have him come to speak to council or to anybody for that matter.
Maybe not just yet. Just because we've been filling up these meetings with getting the format and exactly finding and everything. What are you guys?
I think we keep going on process and then we add product a little later over time.
Okay, so any point in time that you feel as if you would like to have that done, let me know and we'll make sure it happens.
Okay,
Will do, Russ.
we appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you should adjourn.
Adjourn. Okay, thank you everyone for being here. Thank you. They have, in 15 minutes, they have another meeting.
Oh, 15.
Yeah. Get out of here.
Thanks, folks.
Marianne, I think, I do, looking at sediment in other communities is a good idea, but that's one task of the water department, not about the government.
Yeah, but when you.
Yeah.
What you start saying from. What do you?
Get everything ready.
It actually says.
Coming fast with my head.
Yeah, look at it. These X communities have done their. You have to do that, so if we get it early past them. They're not, they're just involved, but that's not our community, so that's gotta be. Members, sign email. Yes, investigating.
I haven't been up there in a couple of weeks.
I'd like to get some of that so that we can build our.
I know, then council says, yeah, that's.
I'm sure there was just like.
How are you? Good. You're good. Am I right? Yeah. All right. All right.
Maybe back this time for this meeting.
I might have been following you through the past. It was a red jeep, I couldn't.
We were in line for a long time. Oh, yeah. They're not moving people through there as fast.
No, and
But our car will come through. They're not taking back for a long time.
so it was, I think it's 9:15.
We were going, we were headed to dermatologist. Okay.
It's the house here left.